Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
Right,
Thank you.
it.
Nobody's texting war plans.
Kazu, you're up.
I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what we're directing. Nobody's texting war plans. There's no units, no locations, no routes, no flight paths, no sources, no methods, no classified information.
Questions and concerns continue over a leaked text chat among senior national security officials that critics say, if hacked, could have threatened the lives of U.S. military personnel. That news tops the Week in Review. The text thread on the Signal messaging app was revealed by a journalist for The Atlantic magazine who was accidentally invited into the chat that included the Secretary of Defense, the Vice President, the National Security Advisor, the Director of National Intelligence, and the CIA Director. During the chat over unsecured personal phones, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth posted multiple details about impending U.S. military airstrikes against Yemen's Houthi rebels before the American pilots were airborne. Members of the Intelligence Committee were grilled this week in a hearing on Capitol Hill.
Would not information about the timing of airstrikes allow a military to pre-position or cue air defense systems to shoot down enemy aircraft?
I think, Senator, from our perspective, any advance warning is something that we certainly are trying to protect.
Yeah. Director Radcliffe, this was a huge mistake, correct?
No.
The testimony happened in a contentious hearing on Capitol Hill that had already been scheduled with the nation's top intelligence officials before the Signal chat was leaked. Those officials testified they did not share classified information.
Do you think these tariffs will benefit Republican lawmakers who have said today that your administration should take more accountability and not downplay what's happened with Signal that we've seen in these messages today?
Well, I don't know about downplaying. The press upplays it. I think it's all a witch hunt. That's all. I think it's a witch hunt. I wasn't involved with it. I wasn't there.
Do you still believe nothing classified was shared?
Well, that's what I've heard. I don't know. I'm not sure. You'll have to ask the various people involved. I really don't know.
For analysis of the Signal leak, we now turn to Amy Mitchell, an expert on defense and national security. She's a senior fellow at the National Security Institute at George Mason University and has advised 3 secretaries of defense. Amy, in your prior work advising secretaries of defense, what would you have told your boss about whether or not he should send war plans over a non-secured platform like Signal?
Thanks, Roselle. I would have advised the Secretary, one, not to use Signal. The Department of Defense has numerous communications capabilities that are accessible to the Secretary especially, and to communicate strictly via those channels for the exact reason that we've seen this week.
Yeah, and government officials both in the administration and on Capitol Hill who have defended those on that Signal group chat have said it was a glitch, a mistake, but that the conversation was not classified. What is your reaction to that?
So there's been a lot of semantics being bounced around. First off, a war plan is just that. It's just a plan. But when you add in timing and make it an operational plan, that is absolutely classified. The appetite for any type of investigation within the administration is clearly off the table. So it will really fall to Congress to see how they want to handle it. And they are looking at this very seriously.
The Signal chat was apparently conducted on personal phones instead of government-issued secure devices. Not only that, but one of the participants, U.S. Envoy Steve Witkoff, was actually in the Kremlin at the time, conducting negotiations about Ukraine with Vladimir Putin. What kind of risk does that present?
It's a really high risk, Roselle. So, before the election and during the election, we saw that a lot of who became senior Trump administration officials, their phones had been breached and personal information had been shared by our adversaries and bad actors. And it really seems like they did not learn a lesson from that to ensure that there is cybersecurity across the board for senior leadership. And using a personal phone when you've been given a government phone, unless you are actively CCing your government account so that there is a record and people understand that you are trying to keep the information contained, again, huge breach of protocol.
Wow. And from a national security perspective, what do you think our allies with whom we have traditionally shared intelligence make of the security breach?
I think they're looking at it, well, two issues there. I think that in the discussion between all the participants on the Signal chat, you saw kind of unvarnished disdain for Europe and many of our allies. And that is really one of the longer term effects of the disclosure of this information. I think that Europe was thinking prior to this, let's wait a couple years, things will come back, calm back down in a next administration. I think that they are seeing that the United States is very serious about what it's been saying to them, both publicly and privately. Secondly, in terms of intelligence sharing, obviously they are going to want to have our assurance that whatever is being shared does not go public in the future. And I think we'll see a pullback on some of that, and it will most directly affect what we call our Five Eyes partnership, which is the UK, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, where we have massive intelligence sharing across that network. And I think that they are now asking themselves, how do we deal with this in the future?
In your opinion, what should the consequences be for those who participated in the Signal group chat? Can this be chalked up as a learning experience, or should the repercussions be more serious than that?
Thanks, Roselle. Under normal circumstances, this would be treated very seriously. And so I think across the board, we're seeing a lack of credibility moving forward. And that credibility issue and trust issue is going to extend from the Secretary of Defense to the Secretary of State to the National Security Advisor. And now that DOJ has chimed in with Attorney General Pat Bondi saying that we won't prosecute this case, it's going to put a big trust issue going forward, both with the public and with the federal workforce. And we've already seen, another case of this over at DHS where information was inadvertently shared. The employee immediately alerted her supervisors. She was immediately put on leave. Her security clearance was revoked, and since she has been fired from the position. So we're seeing a difference in how we're treating people, and that will have a chilling effect across the government.
Well, Amy Mitchell, thank you so much for your time and your insight.
Thank you so much, Roselle.